All right, so in this video, we're going to be looking at how to navigate to a new screen and back. We're also going to be looking at how to send data to the new screen. Okay, so basically these two things. So for this, we're going to be using this Navigator class, and we're going to use that the two of these methods, the push and the pop method. The push methods will push basically a new screen or route on top of the one that you are on currently, and the pop does the reverse. Okay, so we're going to create a let's get started with the demo project, and I kind of basically just want to go over these routes, and at the end we're going to build something similar to this. So if you click on this open route, it goes to the new screen, and then you have this go back button to go back to the first screen. And we are also going to basically pass some data from this to the second route. Okay, so we'll do all those things. All right, let's get started. So I have a basic sort of empty application here, and I will run this, and it is currently just is an empty hello world, right? So what I'm going to do is under my lib folder, I'm going to create a new directory, and I'm going to call this routes. And just to note that within in Flutter, when you say routes, it means screens. It's the same thing. In Android, you might say activities. In sometimes you may say pages, but it's kind of the same thing. So we're going to create a couple more Dart files. So we are going to say, well, we're going to say, let's say, first screen. What was the name here? The first route. And here we're going to do another one and call it second route. Now, these two routes or screens represents the two screens that we're going to have. Okay, we're going to create those widgets that show up in these two different screens. Okay, now let's see, we have a main file, and then we have the route folder and a couple of routes inside of it, a couple of files inside of it. Okay, so let's go back to the main. Here I'm going to just import routes and then first route. Okay, because I'm going to create a widget in here, and I want to have access to that. Okay, now I'm going to replace this scaffold widget with the first route widget I will create in my first route file. So I'm going to hit save and go here. Inside first route, I'm just going to keep things really simple. I'm just going to import the material file, the material library, and I'm going to copy this code. And this code is actually very simple. So it's just a stateless widget, and all there is an app bar which says first route, and we have a button, and that button has an onPressed method that hasn't been, there's no code inside of it. So when the button gets pressed, nothing is going to happen. So I'm going to run this and show you how this looks. Just a second here. So now it's going to load up here in a second. Maybe I should pause. So okay, so now after loading it, it says here first route and open route. Nothing happens when you press the button because we don't have anything here as in the onPressed event handler. I'm gonna go to the second routes page here and copy this bit of code. So this code, I also have to import material because the material, all these things are inside material. All right, so we have that as well. And now I'm going to go back to my first route, and here I'm going to import the second route, because what I want to do is that when onPressed is clicked, I want to use the Navigator to show the second page, the second route page. All right, so hopefully this all makes sense. Now this is where sort of the magic starts to happen. Okay, so this here onPressed, this few lines of code, this is what is going to allow us to navigate to the second page. Okay, let me just demo this, and then I'll explain what's going on. So now if I click on that button, it takes me to the second screen. Okay, let's go back, and if I click on this, it takes me to the second screen. Okay, now if I click on go back, nothing happens because I don't have the code for this, but at least when I click on open route, it goes back, it goes to the second. So let's take a look at this code. Okay, so when on pressed, when this button is clicked, what we're doing is we are calling the Navigator.push method, and we're passing in the context. So the context is going to give you the position in the widget tree that you are currently in. Currently, we don't really use it, but we do pass it to push. And then material page route is used, and the builder method of inside the material page route is used to provide the second route as an argument. So what this going to do is it's just going to create a new route with this, which is pointing to the second route. Okay. Now, when we look at the second route, this is basically, it just returns a scaffold, right? And we don't have anything inside our on pressed here. So, and this on pressed is actually really simple too. And we're just going to do is Navigator.pop, and we have to still pass the current context. So with that, as soon as I hit save, you can see that now if I click on go back, it pops the route, and you're back to the parent route. Okay, this is a very simple basic example of how you can have multiple sort of pages shown one from the other. Okay, now let's learn how do I pass some data to this route. Okay, so to pass the data, we have to make some adjustments in the second route. We have to we say that, hey, the second route needs to accept the data, and then the first route also need to actually send the data. So we will make those changes now. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reorganize some of these screens so we can see it all. So on my left side, I have the first route. On the second screen, I have the second route. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to change the second route to accept some data from the first route. I'm just gonna change, what we're gonna do is we're gonna say that we're gonna modify the constructor here, the second route constructor. So currently it just takes the super.key, but I want to also want it to take another argument and call this this dot, let's just say data. Okay, and now what I'm gonna do is here, now it's saying that, hey, create field data. So we can do that. Actually, we can even do final string. Let's just say that it's going to be string data. Okay, that's the same. Yeah, so now there is an error. It says that, hey, you're not sending any data here. So let's just change that. We're going to say data is equal to something. Let's just say test data. Okay, so we are now sending the test data when we are creating our second route. Now we have to send some information there, which like data, which is has to be a string. So what this means is now we have access to this data in the second route. Now so in here you can see that there is a child widget, the elevated button widget, right? But along with that, maybe I will add another widget instead of, like, let's just say maybe we'll wrap this in a column, and then in the column we have children, and here we'll just do text, and the text is going to be the data that we got sent. So to access the data, what we have to do is we just have to say this dot data, and now it should allow you to access. Oh, actually we don't even need this. So text data, Now let's hit save and hit open route. So as you can see, this test data is getting shown here. So we are able to pass data really easily from one screen to the other screen. Now let's make it a little bit nicer of an example. So here, let's go back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this widget into a stateful widget. So to do this, I hit option return and convert to stateful widget. Okay. You can also do this by right clicking and say show context actions, and that should also allow you to do that. I wanted to create this as stateful widget because I'm going to, in the body, I'm going to actually have a text field, and I'm going to pass the data from the text field to the second screen. So let me go ahead and wrap this again, show context action, and I'm going to just do container. And in here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a text field. Text field. And this guy is going to have an decoration and input decorations here, and hint text can be enter data. Okay. So here you can see that. Now again, I like to have some padding, so I'm just gonna go and add some padding, and let me make this slide 20. And now you can see that the column might help if I made it a main axis alignment of center. And if you wanted, you can also put some size box in here to give it some space. Of course, this is all just aesthetic and don't really need to do it, just to make it look nicer. So here it all looks good. Okay, cool. So now we're able to enter some data, hello, and then open route, but you can see the still test data is what shows up. So this is where our state is going to be helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a text editing controller, and I'm going to call this data controller is equal to text editing controller. And now I'm going to use this as the handle for my text box or text field. So this guy here, I can say controller is this. Okay, sorry. No, yeah, there we go. Well, it's not constant, so I have to remove the constant from the padding. Now we're good, but what we have to do is instead of sending text data, we do need to send data is equal to data controller dot text. Okay. Again, it's not constant. Okay, cool. So that should be good. Let me just see. So let's see hello, and if it says open route, and you can see the hello shows up here. And of course you can probably make this a little bit nicer as well. Style, text style, and font size, let's just make it large. And here inside column, I'm going to say main axis alignment is going to be center, and there we go, hello. So now if you test again, say namaste, and then open route, say namaste. Cool. So you can see it's a simple example of how you can send data from one screen to the other screen using Navigator.push and Navigator.pop. Okay, this is very useful when you're building screens which got multiple screens happening. Okay, you can imagine like a task or to-do list where you click on the to-do list and it opens a bigger sort of view where the details of the to-do item are shown, right? So you need to pass data from so that the second screen knows which to-do you're talking about. All right, so there's a bunch of different use cases. I hope you guys are able to understand this. And of course, if you need further clarification, this is a great resource directly on the documentation website. It's the navigate to new screen and back. The one, and then you had send data to a new screen. One thing I did not cover is the return data from a screen. So what if you wanted to have some data sent back from the second screen to the first screen? And I didn't cover that because not always it's used. So, but if you want to do that in your applications, you can follow this guide. Basically, you have to create a future, a function that is expecting a future in the first screen, so that the second screen, whenever it's finished doing its job, can send back in the future. So that's the return data from a screen. Okay, cool. I'm gonna stop the video now.